It's me, Vicky Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. Happy Sunday. If you're watching this live, it's Sunday. Happy Sunday. I wonder what sort of a Sunday Erin Patterson's having. You know, as it comes up now it's got to be the final week of this mushroom trial. So for those of you who've been following it with me, we know that Snidey Erin, that's what I'm going to call her now. Look at that snidey face. The more I learn about Erin, the more I just do not like this woman. You know, she's a bad woman, whether she meant to murder those poor people or not. She's not a good person. You wouldn't trust her with your baby. Remember, she was thinking of becoming a midwife or a nurse. Would you trust this woman with your baby? With your life? You wouldn't even buy a used car off her, would you? The eyes, the windows to the soul. No doubt. And the more we learn about Erin, the more we learn what an absolute POS she is. So what I'm going to tell you about today is something that one of my lovely detective chatters sent me. I didn't know about this, and now I've got a few stories on it to tell you. About her, she has been convicted. She has got a criminal record for quite a serious crime, actually. But I'll explain that to you when we get to it, and you'll let me know what you think. I think it's quite serious for various reasons. Now, so that's what we're going to be talking about. This criminal conviction, the criminal record that Erin already has. Of course, the jury won't know about that. They can't know about it, can they? But I think, honestly, when this trial finishes, there's so much that's going to come out about Erin. So much. She's got that many skeletons in her cupboard. Oh, my God. She's like Halloween. She's got a lot of skeletons in her cupboard. Well, of course, we all have. I mean, I'm not perfect, don't get me wrong, but I'm going to explain later about what the difference is with Erin and her criminal record. She wasn't a teenager. You know, she wasn't like going through that teenage when she got her criminal record. She was an adult, you know, well into an adult. You know, I mean, a lot of people have criminal records for when they're in their teens, you know, things that they do and not very serious things, or sometimes maybe serious things. They get in with the wrong crowd, or, you know, they do silly things. Oh, no, this wasn't the case with Erin. Erin was about 29 when she got her criminal record. So, you know, and we know how superior she thinks she is. So anyone who may be living on a different planet and doesn't know, this is the mushroom murder trial that we're going through at the moment, but it's nearly over. This lady, Erin Patterson, if I can call her a lady, she is accused, and of course she's innocent till proven guilty, but this criminal record she's got, she's not innocent, she's been found guilty. She's innocent till proven guilty of inviting round to lunch 4 of her husband's relatives. Not her relatives, actually. Her husband's relatives, her husband's dad, Don, his mum, Gail, his auntie, Heather, her husband, Ian. She invited them round for lunch, didn't she? On that fateful day a couple of years ago. She served them with beef Wellington. They became terribly ill. Turned out their beef Wellington was laced with death cap mushrooms, which are highly toxic mushrooms. And these poor people fell gravely ill, and 3 of them died, and only Ian has survived after going through hell and a transplant. And luckily he did, because he can give evidence at this trial. And we're right up to the end of the trial now. The prosecution called 50 witnesses, 50 witnesses, experts, staff from the hospitals, where the people were ingressed. I was going to say, that's the Spanish way of saying, where people were admitted, mushroom experts, data experts, toxicology experts. Oh, you know, 50 witnesses have been called. Even Erin's own children, though they weren't called as witnesses, the jury was shown a video of their evidence from when this horrible event happened. Now, Erin, of course, she was the cook at that lunch. She says she was ill. She said she was ill. Anyway, I'm not going through the whole thing. She's told a million lies about a million things. We've gone through the prosecution's case, the defence case, which only consisted of one witness, which was Erin, basically saying everybody else is wrong. She's right. She told loads of lies earlier on, but now she's telling the truth. Everyone's got to believe her now. And anyone who says anything, different to what she says, is lying or mistaken. Erin is telling the truth now. So Erin is claiming it was just all a terrible, tragic accident, that these death cap mushrooms ended up in the dehydrator that she didn't say she had at first. She also said she'd never gone foraging for mushrooms. Now she says, yes, she had a dehydrator. She did go foraging for mushrooms. And that's how this awful mistake must have happened. Or in fact, the mushrooms that she bought from an Asian supermarket, they must have been death cap mushrooms, even though nobody else from that area has been ill with death cap mushrooms. So it was just that one packet, according to Erin, that she bought from that Asian supermarket that must have been laced with death cap mushrooms. Anyway, if you look in the description box of this video, you'll get the playlist of the whole shebang from day one, the whole court case. So at the moment, the judge is issuing his summing up. He will finish off his summing up tomorrow. And I'll be back online talking about that. Then it will be the jury will be sent out for deliberation. And please God, let us have a verdict this week. I mean, one way or another, because at the end of the day, this is like a nightmare for us waiting for it all to happen. God knows how it is for poor Ian, the only surviving victim. We're going to look at a video in a minute, actually, from, about his children. His children had to testify. I mean, they're not little kids, they're adults. Ian is 70 years old. They had to testify as well. So poor Ian, I bet he cannot wait for a verdict. But even Erin, she can't wait for a verdict. Though, the more I think about Erin in prison, I honestly don't think it's going to be, because Erin's got money. Erin is very financially secure. I think if you're in prison and you've got money, if for those of you who are British, or maybe it was a series that was on all over the world, but do you remember Porridge, the series which was set in a prison in the UK? And it was Ronnie Barker, and it was like a sitcom. And the late great Richard Beckinsale. Ronnie Barker is deceased now as well, but Richard Beckinsale, one of the main characters in it, he died very young. He was only in his 30s. And he was a very good actor, comedic actor. What was that other program he was in? Oh, Rising Damp, of course, with Leonard Rossiter. So, yeah, very funny guy, very good. Anyway, but there was the character in there, wasn't it, that had loads of money, like the mafia guy or the gangland boss. And he was the one with the money and in prison. And I think life in prison, if you've got money, is not as bad as life in prison if you haven't got money, because you've got a lot of power there, haven't you, to get things done, not only with the other sort of convicts in there with you, but with the prison officers. These prison officers don't get paid loads of money, do they? So, there's always an opportunity to get what you want. I think Erin is probably not having such a bad time in prison, to be honest. Erin's the sort of person that will manipulate wherever she is. So I'm not saying she doesn't want to come out of prison. Of course she will. But I don't think Erin's stay in prison will be as bad as anybody else's who hasn't got the money she's got. And also who isn't a complete narcissist like she is, or a complete psychopath, or whatever she is. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see if she's been mentally assessed, or she will get mentally assessed. What has she got? Some sort of... I personally think Erin's a very jealous, bitter person. I bet, we talked about her sister the other day. And of course, her sister, I think, this is a very old picture of her sister, who's a respected geologist. I just think there's a lot of jealousy and bitterness with Erin. She's moaning, whinging about her terrible childhood she had. But you know what? I don't think it was that bad personally. Unless there's things we don't know. This is Erin's mum. Apparently. Probably a good job she's not here to see what's going on with her daughter. Anyway, I just feel like there's a lot more. Erin is like an iceberg. All this that we're hearing about Erin at the moment, it's the tip of an iceberg. I feel like there's a lot more underneath, but it won't come out until this case is finished. And she's found guilty, if she is. Now, of course, I've been running a poll, haven't I? Let's have a look at the poll. I haven't looked at it for a while. Now, the poll that I'm running at the moment on my community chat, if you haven't cast a vote, please go and cast a vote. I'll run the poll till tomorrow. Oh, that's interesting. So the poll basically, let's have a look at it. So we're currently on 81%. Now, don't forget the question that I'm asking here. It's not necessarily if you think she's guilty. The question is, what do you think the jury will find? So you may think she's guilty, but you may think the jury will find her not guilty. Alternatively, you may think she's not guilty, but you think the jury will find her guilty. It's what you think the jury will think. So as the verdict finally approaches, because we can't wait, can we? In this sinister case, what do you think it will be? Not what you think in your own opinion, but what you think the jury will return. And then there's the playlist if you want to recap on anything. So 81% currently think that the jury will find her guilty as charged. 3%, now that's only just happened because it up to yesterday, nobody was saying not guilty, but someone's put not guilty on there. Probably Erin's been on there. And then I don't know, 17%. Yeah, a lot of people are not sure, are they, of what will happen. I've had 36 votes so far. Now, we could do with more votes. I mean, I've got nearly 5,000 subscribers. Come on, come and vote on this. It's on the posts. I'm gonna put that link in the chat at the bottom. Sorry, I will be coming through your chat in a minute. So yeah, go and vote. If you haven't voted yet, please go on there and vote which one you think. Now, something else I just want to talk about, sorry, like a bit of waffle before I get going. Where is it? Yeah, now, the other day, we talked about Edna Quintana, who was the lady that was being searched for when Suzanne Morphew's remains were found. And not only that, another guy called James Montoya was found while they were searching for Edna. And we literally had talked about it just a couple of days ago. And literally, and we prayed. I think prayer does help. I think her remains had already been found from what I can gather, but they hadn't been confirmed as being hers. But I know it's not really good news because it means that Edna, unfortunately, is deceased. But what it means is her family will get the same closure. We watched her family talking. They wanted closure. She's got 5 children. And she just went off on a hike with her partner at the time and disappeared. And her partner says she got into difficulty, went back to the car, and when he went back to the car, because he just left her to walk back to the car on her own, even though she didn't have a mobile with her. He had her mobile. he says that when he went down to the car, she'd disappeared and she'd never been seen since. And she's been searched for 2 years. And during the search for Edna, as I say, 2 other remains were found. This is in the USA. So it's good news that her remains have been found, even though it's very sad because there's no hope now, obviously. But now, hopefully, Edna will get some justice. You know, we need justice for Edna. What happened to her? Did she have a terrible accident? Or did her partner have something to do with it? Or somebody else completely? So poor old, I don't mean old, poor, you know, it's just an expression, poor old Edna, 55 years old. She wasn't old, you know, 5 children. Anyway, she's been found. So that's good news. That's good news, isn't it? So before we get into talking about Erin and her record, her criminal record that she's got, I think why it's so important as well is when you hear about it, just is another insight into the sort of person that Erin is, how entitled she is, how she thinks she's superior to everybody else. She can get away with anything. I think all this is very important clues to a psychological makeup. She's supposed to be so intelligent, but then, you know, as the person who sent me the details of this conviction that she's got, or these convictions, said, if she's so intelligent, why did she not realize that she would come under scrutiny, obviously, when these people died? My personal opinion is she never thought she would get caught out. She never thought she meant to do them harm. She may not have meant to murder them, but she definitely meant to do them harm, in my opinion. And the reason she did, you know, she just thought, I bet her jaw dropped when the hospital said to her they thought it was death cap mushroom poisoning. She just underestimated everyone else's everyone else's intelligence. That's what Erin does. She overestimates her own intelligence and underestimates everybody else's. So what am I going to do first? So yeah, I'm going to say thank you. Thank you to everyone for watching, for liking, subscribing. Thank you to my members. Thank you to anyone who sends me a Ko-fi, buys me a super sticker. I should have said that the other way around. PayPal's me, sends me an email. You know, I'm getting a lot of emails at the moment, which is great. But please remember, when you send me an email, please put me a link that I can just go to, because I just literally haven't got time to go looking for videos and things, apart from the research that I'm already doing. So I need a link. I appreciate everyone who sends anything that I think I'll find interesting or might be relevant to a case. But I need a link to just be able to go to straight away, because don't forget, I get a lot. At the moment, I'm getting an awful lot. So along with everything else, without a link to go immediately to where I'm being aimed at, which is brilliant, I just can't do it. That's basically, just unfortunate fact at the moment. No tiempo, no time. Okay, so yeah. Thank you. Hello, lurkers, lovely lurkers. Thank you for watching. Even you loathsome lurkers, thank you for watching. Thank you to Replay Crew. I appreciate you watching. And if you're not subscribed already, please think about subscribing. And now I'm going to go into the chat and say hello to those of you who are brave enough to go into the chat. Thank you for being here with me this Sunday morning. Yeah, I always really appreciate it that you give up your time to spend a bit of it with me and each other, of course. I know a lot of you like to come into the chat because you like to spend time with each other, probably more than you like listening to me waffling on. It's very hot again. It's already 34 degrees here in Spain. It's only 11:24 in the morning. So, yeah, it's going to be really hot. I won't be doing anything much today. I don't have to drive today. I'll probably be drinking quite a lot. Having a cinema afternoon, I feel like watching a ghost story. If anyone knows a good ghost film, that I might not have seen. I feel like watching a scary story with all the blinds down and everything. Hi, Lily. Hi, Bluebell. Hi, David. Have you finished your painting yet, David? Yeah, that's a good point, Bluebell. How would she get a job as a nurse if she's got a criminal record? And it's quite a serious one. You know, it's not just like, 18 and shoplifting a bar of chocolate or something. I mean, it's like, a serious one. Hi, Maria. Hi, Sean. Buenos dias. Yes, Grouty. That's it, David. It was Grouty. So this is how I imagine Erin. This is the vision I get of Erin in prison, in this cell, like with people surrounding her and summoning people to talk to her. Bit like, who's the other one? The other psycho, the other Fruit Loop. Laurie Daybell. But she's just them. She's got an interview coming out again. She's been interviewed. Laurie, she feels like a film star, doesn't she? She loves doing interviews. She loves getting the attention, saying, oh, poor her, this family tragedy she had, like murdering her own children and her husband and her new husband's ex-wife, etc. Well, she wasn't his ex-wife, actually. She was his current wife. Poor Laurie, she's so hard done by these family tragedies that follow her around. She doesn't understand it. That's how Erin and Laurie, to me, have got a lot of similarities. Yeah, I do think that when this case is over, lots more is going to come out about Erin. That's it, Harry Grouty. Yeah, she's very cunning, Maria. Hi, Kathy. Oh my God, 104 Fahrenheit in Tucson. No monsoons yet. You sort of want a monsoon in one way. Well, obviously you don't, because you don't want the flooding and everything. But anything to cool it down when it gets hot, isn't it? Hi, Tracy. Okay, so just before we look at these criminal convictions, I just want to show you a video. Let me take my banner off, actually. I just want to show you a video that we've not seen before, which I think is really interesting. And this is about Ian and Heather's children. As I say, adult children, they're grown-up children, they're not little children. They had to give evidence in the trial, and it's so long ago now, you may have forgotten a little bit about it. So I thought we'd have a look at this video. Because, well, you may have seen it before, but we haven't watched it together. Where is it?
As the victims' children today gave evidence, describing their parents' final agonising hours.
The children of the three victims of the mushroom lunch arrive at court, united in grief. Erin Patterson is accused of the murder of her estranged husband's parents, Don and Gail Patterson, and his auntie, Heather Wilkinson, as well as the attempted murder of Heather's husband, Ian. Don and Gail's daughter, Anna, fought back tears as she recounted speaking to her mum in the hours after the fatal lunch.
Mum said it went well. She said they had beef Wellington, but that it was too much for Mum, so Dad finished hers.
She told the court her parents had dined at Erin's before, eating a pie of some sort, but didn't become ill after that meal.
Oh, so so her parents, or Simon's parents, of course she's Simon's sister, Erin's estranged husband's sister, they had eaten at Erin's before, but Gail and Ian had never been invited before, had they?
Ian and Heather had met with their church's treasurer right after the fatal lunch, with Heather describing it as
delicious and beautiful. She continued to rave about the meal.
Although their daughter...
How sad is that? She's come back from that meal and said how delicious it was and beautiful, raving about it. And she did not know. She was a dead woman walking then. Those death cap mushrooms were in her system and were killing her from the inside slowly. I just find this so upsetting, it's just such a horrible, horrible thing to do to people, to kill them so slowly as that, and so coldly and calculatedly. So if Erin is found guilty, you've got to remember she planned this. This is not a crime of passion. This is a nasty, evil, malicious crime just for spite.
Daughter Ruth said she was surprised they'd even been invited to Erin's in the first place.
In response to my reaction, she said, yeah, we were surprised also that had never happened before.
Ruth said she rushed to be by her parents' side after hearing they were in hospital.
They talked about their concern for Erin maybe coming to hospital as a precaution. They felt she should be there also.
In the final agonising hours of Don and Gail's life, doctors recalled they were worried about the possibility of death cap mushroom poisoning. Don and Gail's son, Matthew, revealed he'd called Erin looking for answers.
She mentioned there were fresh mushrooms from Woolies and there were dried mushrooms from a Chinese grocer or supermarket. I did say I was with Dad and I had toxicology people who were with us who wanted to know.
Under cross-examination, Matthew agreed Erin paused, as if trying to remember details when asked about where she bought the mushrooms.
Yeah, pause, trying to get her story straight, more like. And I think that Erin, she will really regret that thing she said about the Asian grocer. She didn't realise how far people would go into it. So as I say, she's not as clever as she thinks, is she? Because obviously, when people die, and she's asked where did she get the mushrooms from, and she says, oh, an Asian supermarket. Of course they've got to find out which supermarket it is. They can't have, there could have been like hundreds of people out there that had bought poisonous mushrooms from this Asian grocer. Erin made a big mistake there, didn't she? She would have been much better to say she had foraged them, or just admit that, oh, well, maybe it was, oh yeah, I got them from wherever. She made the mistake and she's trying to think on her feet now and get around it. So although, people have described her as a genius, she obviously thinks she's some sort of genius. She's not.
Erin Patterson has pleaded not guilty to 3 charges of murder and 1 of attempted murder.
We are live from the lands of the Kulin Nation. 10 News First, Samantha Butler is in Morwell and is with us again to tell us more. Sam, how did the family members hold up on the stand today?
Well, Ed, it was a really harrowing day of evidence today in court as we heard from the children of Don and Gail Patterson and Heather and Ian Wilkinson. In particular, Anna Terrington, the youngest daughter of Don and Gail Patterson, was quite emotional. As you heard just then, she fought back tears as she recounted their final days in hospital and how she was by their bedside while they were so unwell. She would try and compose herself. She would take some really deep breaths and lengthy pauses as she tried to get through those questions. But you can only imagine just how difficult it must have been for them on the stand today, not only reliving.
Yeah, these are sort of almost like the forgotten victims, aren't they, in a way, because it's not only Ian, we think a lot about Ian because he was actually at the lunch and he lost his wife. But these people, they've lost their mother, or their father and mother. Simon, his brother and his sister, they've all lost their parents. And if they've got children, they've lost their grandparents. There's so many victims in this case.
Their parents' deaths, but also in such a public way.
So much of this case seems to live in the relationships between the various parties here. Did we learn anything more today about Erin's relationship with Simon's family?
Yeah, well, one of the really common threads throughout the evidence that we heard today in court is that even after Erin separated with her estranged husband, Simon Patterson, in 2015, she remained on really quite good terms with his parents, Don and Gail Patterson. She would still attend family gatherings. She was still quite involved, and Don and Gail were very supportive of her. We also heard that under cross-examination, Anna Terrington, their youngest daughter, said that there was no animosity between Erin and Don and Gail Patterson. She stayed, that relationship remained really quite.
The thing is, there was no animosity from Don and Gail's part. They were nice people. But we know that Erin was complaining about them on the Facebook group, saying, fuck them, I'm done with that family and things like that. So although Don and Gail, unfortunately for them, did not know there was animosity, they weren't people who would feel animosity, were they? They were kind people. Erin, I think, has lived a life of jealousy, of starting with her own sister, because I do think it is very significant that her sister did not appear as a character witness for the defence or anything. Do they even still have a relationship now? I don't know, but there's been no word from. You'd think, the defence, Erin's defence, would at least call some people to say, oh no, Erin couldn't possibly have done that. They called no one. They called, the only person Erin's defence called was Erin. They didn't call any experts. They didn't call any family, any friends, nobody to stick up for Erin. Now that's significant because for the perpetrator or alleged perpetrator to give evidence in a murder trial is so rare. It's so rare. But Erin did. I think that's perhaps another example of the fact she thinks she's superior.
Quite good, and she had a good relationship with Erin as well. We heard that they met back decades ago when Simon and Erin first started dating in the early 2000s and were even pregnant at the same time together, and that was an experience that they shared together.
Sam, there was also a lot of talk about money and certain family members being loaned money by Erin. What more can you tell us about that?
Yeah, well, Sarah, in court today, we heard that both Matthew Patterson and Anna Terrington were loaned money from Erin and Simon Patterson to buy family homes. Matthew Patterson told the court he'd been loaned about $400,000. Anna Terrington said a similar amount, a couple of $100,000. We know that those loans were indexed to inflation, but they were interest-free.
Yeah, she'd given these massive loans, hadn't she, to them? And my feeling is just because she gave those loans, it was because for power, to be Queen Bee. And when she didn't feel like she was getting enough, adulation anymore, that's when she got spiteful, I think. People do. You can't think that, oh no, people wouldn't do that. They do it all the time. And of course, we saw as well, didn't we, that there's 3 times she's thought to have tried to kill Simon before. Maybe Simon was the main target anyway, Of course, she was trying to get him to come to the lunch, but in the end, he didn't go, did he? Okay, while this video finishes, I've got to go and get another drink. I think I'm going to have a proper drink, actually.
Interestingly, though, we didn't get to hear, and they were.
Hang on, let me just talk amongst yourselves. I'll be back in 9 seconds, as always. To continue, and then we're going to look at Erin's convictions.
Weren't asked how much money had been repaid on those loans. We only heard that those repayments had been made over the years.
And we also heard from one of the doctors who was keen to treat Erin. Do we know what treatment, if any, she received for suspected mushroom poisoning?
This was a really interesting part of the evidence today. We heard from Dr. Chris Webster, who was one of the first doctors to speak to Erin when she presented to Leongatha Hospital, complaining of gastro-like symptoms 2 days after the lunch at her Leongatha home. Now, he said he quickly realised that she was the one who had cooked the meal, which had left 4 people violently ill, and he warned her that there's the potential that she could have also been exposed to toxic death cat mushroom poisoning. Despite that medical advice, she discharged herself from hospital. She left, and Dr. Webster told the court that he tried to call her mobile. She didn't answer, and that was what prompted him to make a call to police. Now, that 000 call was actually played to the jury today. Erin eventually did return to hospital of her own accord, but we did hear that she was very reluctant to receive treatment.
And Sam, finally, before we let you go, the court heard Simon's brother Matthew tried to get from Erin where she'd bought the mushrooms. What did Erin say?
Yeah, well, this was also a conversation that happened on the Monday, 2 days after that lunch. And this was at the point when toxicologists at the hospital were really trying to frantically pinpoint more information and gather more information about the poison that was behind his parents' illness. Matthew Patterson called Erin. That conversation on the phone lasted barely more than a minute. And Erin told him that she had bought fresh mushrooms from Woolworths and also some dried mushrooms from a Chinese grocer in the Melbourne suburb of Oakley. That claim is obviously very much at the centre of this case, but we will be back here in court tomorrow as fresh witnesses take the stand.
Okay, Sam, appreciate your time. Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, we hadn't seen that video before, but it's from quite a while ago, right back at the beginning of the trial. Right, let me put my face back on. Hello. So yeah. All these victims, you know, whenever anybody dies or is murdered, you know, it affects a lot of people, doesn't it? Even people that you don't imagine. But of course, the immediate family, Don and Gail's children, you know, Simon's siblings, and then of course Ian and Heather's children that have lost their mum, and their children that have lost their grandma, you know, so these ripples go out, don't they? You know, I always say that whenever somebody actually takes someone's life away, it's not only that person that they're affecting. They are not the only victim, and that, you know, all that should be taken into account. Hopefully it is. That's what family impact statements are about, isn't it? But they should, you know, there's friends impact statements. These communities are affected by these things. You know, people from the other side of the world these days now can read a case. It's quite often that I'll read about cases that affect me, not only the cases that I do on this video, but on these videos, but other cases that I don't even cover because I can't cover every single case that comes up. But also there's quite often children's cases that I just can't talk about, things like, anyway, so there you go. So let's get to Erin's convictions. How, you know, she's trying to, the defence is trying to paint her as this devoted mother. Now, these convictions happened before she had children, I've got to say. So she didn't have any children, but she was 29 years old. You know, she wasn't a daft teenager, you know, doing daft things like they do. You know, she was 29. She should have known better, shouldn't she? Wasn't she? When was she an air traffic controller? Is that why she had to leave the air traffic control job? Because she left abruptly. Well, I hadn't even thought about that. How old was Erin when she was an air traffic controller? Because the reason that she may have lost that job may have been because of these convictions, which I'm going to explain. Okay. So she said she hadn't even been able to visit her sister. Well, why didn't her sister come and visit her then? I don't know. Huh. Oh, yeah, remember that? The eye drop killer. Oh, you know what? This is someone who put poison in eye drops. You know, and they had a character witness. Yeah, if you find that link, if you can post that link, Maria, I'd be interested to read that. Yeah, get the golden goblet out. Yeah. Yeah, it's Sunday. I don't have to drive, and I'm definitely having a little drinky poos today. Sorry, I'm just going back through your chat because I missed it. Thank you, Dottie. Dottie likes my necklace. Thank you so much. Last night's stream, Bluebell. Yeah, of course it was afternoon stream. It did go on a long time. I have cut it into a couple of smaller videos, but you should rewatch that because it's very interesting. That, I mean, it really is. David, it was the daytime for you when I was doing that long stream about what Christopher Stern's Chris and Debbie Stearns and the doctor. I got that line off you, Jack. David, the doctor that got his degree, he got his doctor's certification from Timu, because he was calling Stephen Stearns an empath. An empath, Stephen Stearns. You know, I've not been able to stop thinking about that and think how ridiculous a thing that is. Say, oh, well, he's an empath. He's such an empath. He abused a little girl for years and years, videoed it, took photos, maybe even sold them, we don't know yet, and eventually murdered her. But what an empath. What an empath, this doctor said about him. God's sake. Oh, yeah, you should watch it. You should watch it, Bluebell, because starts off I'm quite sympathetic towards the Stearns, and then, of course, they start their usual rubbish about it. Poor Stefan. He's an empath. He's an animal lover. He's an animal lover, like Hitler and the Morse murderers, as if that makes any difference from what he did. Yeah, I think there's still, I think, did it last nearly 4 hours? I don't know. But anyway, I bet you're all waiting to hear this. So, what was Erin charged with? Absolutely. You'd be a bit gobsmacked. Not so much with what she was charged with. Because you know what she was charged with, which is drinking and driving, is not the most, I mean, it's a terrible thing to do, but it's not the most uncommon crime, is it, that people do? It's what she did. What she did when she was, when the police tried to stop her. So Erin Patterson, the woman under investigation for allegedly cooking the deadly mushroom meal, claimed the lives of 3 people who's previously faced a series of charges after being involved in a drunk driving incident. So according to reports from the Australian, the 49-year-old, well, she's 50 now, isn't she, was convicted in 2004 of driving drunk in an unregistered vehicle. Now, all I can presume is if it was unregistered, I would imagine it wasn't insured. I don't know. Now, I'm not perfect. I'm not saying I've never driven a car that wasn't insured. Briefly, maybe, you know, you get sometimes you just overtakes you, doesn't it? You forget that the insurance has run out or whatever, but, you know, for a little couple of days or something like that. I'm not talking about, you know, for a length of time. I'm not, you know, I've driven without seatbelt on quite often. You know, maybe speeding, but it's not, as I say, this is drink driving and an unregistered vehicle. She was 29 years old, and apparently she was then known as Erin Trudy Scudder. This is her maiden name, isn't it? 29 years old. She faced legal consequences for her reckless actions. She lost her license for 30 months. That's quite a lot for a first offence, don't you think? Now, I don't know much about, as far as I thought, if you get stopped for drinking and driving and you test positive, of course, isn't it a 12-month automatic ban? I would imagine if it was your first offence, 12 months. But you see, hers was exacerbated, not only by, you know, being stopped and she'd had a drink, but she had reckless actions because she crashed her vehicle in the eastern suburbs of Melbourne while heavily intoxicated. And after that crash, she fled from authorities by speeding away from the crash scene, reaching 95 kilometres an hour in a 60 kilometre an hour zone. So it's not just the drinking and driving. It's not just being, you know, maybe you go out, you have a lunch, maybe you've had a glass of wine and you're a little bit over or whatever. No. She then fled. She crashed her car and fled the scene. Do you know what it reminded me of? Those of you out there that are members, on Thursday night we did a members live and we looked at a body cam video of some entitled Karen That's what Erin is. She's an entitled Karen, isn't it? I even said during that video, do you remember? I even said, oh, she reminds me of Erin Patterson, this woman. Because you remember how many illnesses she said she had? So they had this woman captured on dash cam. If you remember and you haven't seen it yet, it's on the members' videos. So, of course, they captured her on dash cam. They stopped her, I think, because of a tail light or something. It was a routine traffic stop. It became apparent that this woman was, well, she was actually drugged up. She wasn't drunk, to be honest. She hadn't had a drink. She kept saying, give me a breathalyzer. Give me a breathalyzer, because she knew she would pass a breathalyzer, but she was high as a kite on meth, apparently. Anyway, she was like, oh, and all the illnesses she had. Do you remember again? And I was saying, God, this reminds me of Erin Patterson, because she had arthritis, she had spondylosis or whatever. She had high blood pressure. She had Parkinson's disease. She had anxiety. Oh, there was no illness that this woman didn't have. And while she's talking to the police, while they're stopping before, just as they're saying to her, look, can you get out of the car, realising there's something going on here, she's asked them if she can turn the car motor on because she wants the aircon. Because this was in Florida, Florida, that place where all these weird things happen. And it was boiling hot, and she wanted she said, oh, I'm so hot, I can't breathe. She reeled off all these illnesses she had. So she asked the policeman if she could put the engine on so that she could have the aircon on. And the policeman, which I'm sure he got into a lot of trouble for, allowed her to do that. And then the next minute, she sped off. So, and the policeman's saying to her, don't you speed off. And she's going, I'm speeding off. She led them on this high speed car chase along all these motorways and what have you, and caused a massive crash. And we're just lucky nobody was killed. Just lucky nobody was killed, because she was dodging in and out of the traffic. She ended up, crashing with some poor person, I suppose. I don't know if it might have been a police car. I don't know if it's the police car that she crashed into, but anyway, it's all there on the video. She's done exactly the same thing. So, my God, when I saw this, I thought, I don't believe this. This is what, she did. Oh, my God. Just unbelievable. So, Erin, she's a bad person. It's not just this, is it? And you know what? It's not just her being a little bit over the limit or whatever. Well, she wasn't. She was over double the limit. So it wasn't just, oh, she'd had a beer and she thought she'd be okay or whatever. No. She was over double the limit. She then tried to outrun the police. That's how Erin, how narcissistic Erin is. So even though she was drunk, even though she'd already had a crash, she decided to try and outrun the police. Don't you think that says something about Erin's personality? Yeah? I mean, to me, it tells you something, because it's bad enough, everybody, I don't think there's probably many of us that haven't done some sort of traffic violation at some point. But certainly when you get to my advanced age, it's not, I've gone through on amber, on the traffic lights, those kind of things. And I'm not saying they're right or good to do, but I have done them. But don't you think what's really significant about this is that she fled from the authorities? It takes a special sort of person, doesn't it? To even if you've done something wrong and then the police stop you, to actually try and outrun them. That's what she's tried to do in this case, in my opinion, but in a figurative way. She tried to outrun them. She's treated the police like fools, hasn't she? She even made that comment, I didn't think they'd be silly enough to leave the phone on. No, because she factory reset her phone while it was in police custody. She did it remotely. And the reason for doing that, she said, I just thought I'd test it, and I thought, they won't be stupid enough to leave it on internet, but they did. That's like a figurative way of trying to outrun the police. But when she was 29, she literally did try to outrun them, drunk. Already caused a crash. She then fled from them again. So the convictions that were handed down were for charges of failing to stop a vehicle after an accident, failing to provide identifying information after causing property damage, God knows what that was, using an unregistered vehicle on a highway, failing to provide information after property damage, and driving at 95 kilometres an hour in a restricted 60 kilometre zone. This woman doesn't care about anyone except herself. Now, this does not mean, of course, that she murdered these people, but I think it just adds to what we already know about Erin. She's not a nice person. So at the time of the crash, Erin's blood alcohol level was 0.14%, indicating significant impairment. However, the charges of drink driving were dropped, potentially due to overlapping elements in other charges. We probably used her money for that. You know, it's amazing what money can buy you, you know. Look at Hugh Edwards. Hugh Edwards, the child lover, who had incriminating photos of children on his phone. And they were serious, you know, because they're all serious, aren't they, in my opinion? But they do grade them, don't they? And Hugh Edwards had the most serious ones. He didn't even get prison. You know, you can go and protest in the UK or even plan a protest in the UK and get prison sentence, 4 years, 5 years. Hugh Edwards walked out of that courtroom, you know, because of financial reasons, I think, and who you know, who he could bring down with him. You know, probably Hugh Edwards knows too much about other important people. But what I'm trying to say is justice is not for all. And, you know, people with money get better justice, don't they? So Patterson has yet to comment on the previous charges after being advised by her lawyer not to make any public comments as she remains under investigation for the deadly mushroom meal. So I don't know if that was the lawyer she's got now or the one she sacked, because of course it turns out she sacked her first lawyer. So she has denied any wrongdoing in the mushroom incident. Of course, oh no, she wouldn't do anything like that. We're supposed to believe that. We're supposed to believe she would never do anything like that. She loved them. I love them. I would never do it. Do you remember? I love them. I would never do anything to them. We're supposed to believe this woman who has told so many lies and done so many bad things. Anyway, apparently, so this must have been before she was arrested. The police were investigating Patterson because she was the only adult among 5 who, sorry, it just seems ridiculous when you say it, who did not either die or suffer severe illness after ingesting the mushrooms. So that's the article that was sent. So then I had a little look for some other articles as well. And this is an article with the Daily Mail. I think, hang on. Yeah. Look, they've captured that face of hers as well. Do you know, sorry, eyes are the window to the soul as far as I'm concerned. So the woman who served up a poisonous mushroom lunch that left 3 people dead was previously convicted over a crash that saw her speed in an unregistered vehicle and flee the scene. Again, they're saying 48, but she's 50 now. She lost her license for 30 months. I still think that's quite a big length of time to lose your license. How did she get away with the drinking under the influence charge? I just don't understand it. How did she get away with that? I wonder. You know, like they're saying she was over the limits. Why was she not found guilty of that? I just don't get it. Yeah, fined $1,000 in the eastern Melbourne suburb of Glen Waverley, where she said she'd bought those. Oh, she might have bought those mushrooms in Glen Waverley, in the Asian supermarket. It could have been anywhere, really. 5 charges she was convicted of. Let's see. So, failing to stop a vehicle after an accident, failing to give a name or address, using an unregistered vehicle on a highway, and failing to give a name or address when property was damaged. But she was not found guilty of drinking under the influence. I could have had 2 sips of a drink. Driving under the influence. Yeah. It's wrong, isn't it? She was. She did do it. She's 29 years old. She did all those things. And for some reason, she got away with that. So, when approached by the Australian, Miss Patterson declined to discuss the matter, and her lawyer, Bill Doogie, I don't know how you pronounce it, I don't care. He's not her lawyer anymore anyway. She sacked him. Our client does not have any comment to you on a drink driving charge from 19 years ago. But as I say, she was 29. She wasn't 18, 19, 20. She was 29, a supposed genius. I'm wondering now, was that when she was an air traffic controller, and is that why she had to leave that job? And when she was asked directly, she said, my lawyer has told me not to talk to you, which is good advice, to be fair. What is this video? I don't know if this video is to do with her or not. Let's have a look. It's not working anyway. It'll probably come on while I'm talking about something else. So, homicide detectives have branded Miss Patterson a suspect over there. So, don't forget, initially, Miss Patterson, they said she was not a suspect, wasn't suspicious. It was later on. You know, so the police were a little bit slow in charging her. I do think that that is definitely true. So this apparently was a brief visit to Mr. Dugu's office in the CBD on Tuesday. Now, I do, like, when I don't know if you've seen the video of this. She's got her hands in her pocket. She just always looks so arrogant to me, Erin. She doesn't care. I honestly don't think she cares. She doesn't seem to be, you know, really present in this whole thing. That's Simon, her estranged husband. Yeah. So at this time, Mr. Wilkinson was 68. Ian, of course, he's 70 now, and he has recovered, and he has given evidence. So this is back. It's interesting, isn't it, when you look back over these articles, because at the time, Detective Inspector Dean Thomas gave mixed reports on how they were treating Miss Patterson. He started his briefing by declaring that the deaths of her relatives were not suspicious. The deaths are unexplained, and for that purpose we are involved, and we are working as hard as we can to try and identify why these deaths have happened and the circumstances surrounding them. But then, under fire from reporters, he provided a stumbling backflip. The 48-year-old is, well, she is a suspect. She was, and she is, because she cooked those meals for us. For those people that were present, he said. And then, so it wasn't till August the 5th that they took her phones and and computers. And she was taken away to be interviewed. She only said no comment, and she was released that night. And that's when this media circus began. So the detectives said, we've still got a lot of work to do. We need to understand what's caused these symptoms, what's caused ultimately the deaths of these 3 people. We need to understand what has occurred, what is the cause of the injuries, what has caused their deaths and the circumstances surrounding all of that. So it's a very complex matter. It's really interesting. 4 people turn up and 3 of them have passed away. And the highly publicised illness of Miss Patterson's former husband will be thoroughly examined. Now, of course, those charges have been dropped, haven't they? The charges against attempted murder on Simon Patterson have been dropped. So in her statement, Miss Patterson said she portioned the meal onto plates and let her guests pick their own. She said she took the last remaining plate and ate a serving, later handing the leftovers to toxicologists for examination. Well, we now know that Ian said they were all, her plate was different. And this is Simon. He was supposed to attend the lunch as well. Okay. Right, I'm not going to go into the whole thing because we've been watching that, haven't we? Let's have one more article that I want to show you about this. Where's it gone? Hey, Angel. Hey, Jane. Yeah. One more article about a drunken rampage. Right, so see, this is her house. Gives me the creeps, her house. It just reminds me of something out of a Stephen King novel. That's like, no, isn't it? It looks like it's like a cross between sort of The Haunting of Hill House and any ghost film you've ever seen or horror film you've ever seen set in America. Because it looks American. I know it's Australian. It looks like an American house. Or does it? I don't know. But it looks creepy. Just creepy, that house. It gives me the creeps. I think they should dig up the gardens. They should dig it up because God knows what secrets that house has. Anyway, let's just have a look at this.
Identify the type of mushroom that was allegedly used at that lunch in July. A senior botanist explains symptoms and how fast they occurred after ingesting the mushroom can specify that toxin.
They're massive, those mushrooms, aren't they? Massive.
There's a significant backlog of passengers as commercial flights from Australia to Qatar in the Middle East resume. Our senior reporter Kenny Heatley is live at Sydney International Airport. Kenny, what are the airlines telling you this morning?
Yeah, well, this is after Qatar closed.
I hate it when it flashes onto other things. Let's go back. So, yeah, it's been revealed that the woman under investigation for a potential involvement in the death of 3 individuals, oh, God, these pop-ups drive you mad, due to toxic death cap mushrooms was convicted of 5 charges in 2004. This is probably just the same thing. So, yeah, let's just recap. High-speed drunken rampage behind the wheel of an unregistered vehicle. Oh, I love them. I love them. I would never hurt them. Crashed her vehicle in the eastern suburbs of Melbourne while heavily intoxicated. Lost her licence for 30 months. Who tries to outrun the police? Who? I mean, we see it on these dash cam videos and things. The only people who try and do that are absolute nutters. So I think this just confirms it's Erin, the type of person she is. And, you know, although the defence can say, oh, yeah, she's not on trial for being a liar, but she is not, you know, I think what these kind of things show is she is not a person who can be trusted. She just isn't. You know, and they can keep calling her a devoted mother and a this, that, and the other, etc. But all these weird adverts that come up. But, you know, at the end of the day, Erin is not a nice person. That is 100% certain. So, you know, it's certainly, you couldn't think, oh, no, she would never do that. Sorry about my hair. It's going all over the place because I've got the fan on. It's just like, give up. In fact, I should have it up. I normally have my hair up in the summer because it's just too hot to have it on the back of your neck. But then when I do a live, I think, oh, I'll put my hair down. Then my head really itches because I've had it up for so long. I've probably had my hair up since yesterday afternoon, and just took the thing out this morning. My head feels like, you know, just want to go like that. Anyway, sorry, I'm waffling. So there you go. Oh my God, why everyone seems to be having really freaky weather, doesn't it? Oh my God. You know, everyone's having freaky weather. So we've got this, it's climbed up to 35, it's 35 degrees now. It's still only 10 past 12, which reminds me, I've got to go and shout number one son. I think he's going to the beach today. Well, rather him than me. I think you'd frazzle, wouldn't you? Anyway, so I thought I'd just bring you that. Thank you again to the person who sent me that. Thank you to all of you that send me things. I hope you all have a fabulous Sunday, whether you're on the afternoon by now or whether you're in the evening maybe by now. Here in Spain, Sunday's just getting going. It's midday, noon. I won't be doing, as I say, I'm just going to watch some scary films on Netflix, eat something nice, drink something nice, chill. I'm not going out, I'm not stepping out the door at least until 9-10 o'clock this evening. I've been out this morning, bought a few bits. Well, it's cool up to about, well, it's not cool, it's bearable till about 11, and then after that you just can't bear it. The dogs don't know what to do with themselves. Seems like places are either really hot or really cold at the moment. Nobody's having nice, comfortable, nice weather. But anyway, enjoy it anyway, whatever you do. I'll see you really soon in the next video. Now, maybe back later on today, but possibly not, because I get so hot and bothered as the day goes on. Oh, but I will be definitely back in the morning to see, thankfully, hopefully, the final summing up. The final bit of summing up of Justice Beale. He's going to finish, and then, hopefully, please God, see the jury get sent out to start their deliberations. And then it's like, you know, Tik-Tok. The clock's ticking. But don't forget to go onto my community posts, give your opinion as to what you think will happen. And remember that community post, it's not necessarily whether you think Erin's guilty or not, but what you think the jury will find on the, you know, the grounds of what. Don't forget the jury will have seen everything, and they'll have actually seen Erin speaking, which of course we haven't. We've had to have all our information third hand. So the jury will know a lot more than us, and I hope they make the right decision. But I think whatever they decide, I know what I think of Erin, whatever. But anyway, I'll see you really soon in the next video. And until then, as always, may your God go with you. Thank you. Bye.